Call in by clicking the link in the stream's description. The professor wants to hear from you.
Beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul, good car.
Isn't it lovely? I ain't looking back, I'm focused on what's in front of me. Everybody dates a number, but I'm still here luckily. I know that God got me, so I'm in good company. Isn't it lovely?
Welcome, 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 and thank you for joining me today. I am Professor Bear, and this is a Bear's Thought. And today, the show is being sponsored by two of my favorite groups that really does a lot for anyone that is into wrestling as much as I am. First, it's Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. Now, as a kid, I was big into wrestling figures. I mean, I had my father, he got me the wrestling ring. I was into other action figures, so I just made me my own federation. Had all the stuff. So after that, growing up, I ended up getting a job at Toys R Us. And for y'all who do not know what Toys R Us is, look it up. So working there, I got my hands on the latest action figures. So man, I collected them big time. And after moving a couple of times and, getting older, didn't think much about them too much. Then I was cleaning out my garage, and lo and behold, I found my original ECW figures. I thought to myself, man, I could hold on these. Then I thought, some other kid can enjoy this, or some just other wrestling fans. So I thought to myself, I want to sell these, but I wasn't going to get online and do that. And then I found a great place in Clinton, Tennessee, that is Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. When they have every type of action figure you can imagine. And not only action figures, they have accessories, they have title belts, they have collectible cards, they have even comic books. They are well versed in having anything that has to do with wrestling. So go on Facebook and check out Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. And next is another great product. Chops, cards, and print on demands. Again, as a kid, I collected all types of cards. Didn't matter what they were. And then I thought to myself, one day I'm going to have my own card. I'm going to get there. Then life hit me quickly, letting me know I was not an athlete. So, oh, that's poor me. I can't live out that dream until I found Chops Card and Print on Demands. They make personal trading cards, and they are so great. They could be put up against any trading card that's out there on the market today. And I am going to live out my dream. I'm working on getting Professor Burr trading cards. And you can't beat the price. You can get 18 personalized trading cards for $50. Now tell me, how can you beat that? Well, I can, because if you use the code BEAR15, you'll get 15% off your entire purchase. I mean, what's stopping you from getting your own trading cards? That's Chops Cards and Print on Demand. Your number one for personalized trading cards. Guys, girls, I have a lot of special guests that come on to my show, from legends to promoters to in-ring talent. But this gentleman, I personally have been following since I started getting into the podcasting game. He does something that is really, really unique. And I believe that we all could do more of. I know personally myself, I could put in a lot more time and effort into doing this, is giving back to the community. And again, I've seen so many different interviews that he's had with who's who in the wrestling business, but he is so dedicated and just heartfelt in what his beliefs in and what he does. Guys, this is Stanley Karr. Stanley, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. So good to be on here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Man, and I always start off with this question. What got you into wrestling?
Wow. So I was about 4, maybe 5 years old at the time, and my dad and I would always, enjoy having like bonding time together. It's like a father-son thing. It's what you do when you're young. And one night he was in front of the TV, and I just happened to just join him, just asked him, what are you watching? And I see on the screen this big jacked up dude with a Hawaiian t-shirt on and gold necklace around his neck and gold watch. It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. My father turned to me and he goes, "I'm watching wrestling." This was around the time of the Attitude Era. I believe Stone Cold was out of action around this point in time because I think he had like neck surgery or something. But The Rock was like the face, I feel like, for the second half of the Attitude Era. You had Triple H around, you had Chris Jericho, you had The Big Show, you had the Radicals, and all these different people that were around. So getting to watch the Attitude Era, from then I was hooked. And I took like a little bit of a break, like around the invasion angle and stuff, but I came back to it like a couple of years later. And from then I've been hooked since. There's no better feeling in the world than watching something that's, entertaining and has got great characters and storylines. So feels good for me to be a fan.
That is so cool. So when you got older, what brought you back into wrestling?
Well, like I said, I always have been a fan. I took like a little bit of a break, and I kind of regret taking that break because I missed out on some really good stuff. But I watched from the time I was 9, and from that point on, I've stuck with it. And so I went back and watched some of the stuff from the earlier part of the Ruthless Aggression era, and I'm fortunate to say, even though, as a kid, I started watching the Attitude Era, I kind of consider myself to be a Ruthless Aggression era kid because I grew up watching so many of these different people. Like you had Kurt Angle around and still there, and Triple H, and The Undertaker, of course. And but you had like guys like John Cena on the rise, and Batista, and I didn't get to see Brock Lesnar's first run at the time. I went back and watched some of his old stuff on video before, of course, he came back years later. But I watched some of that, Randy Orton seeing his ascent to superstardom, and oh my gosh, Eddie Guerrero. I'm so glad I got to see his run as champion. I feel like he I would think had a really good run with the belt. I wish he could have had a second run. It's a shame, he died, because I feel like we could have got some more stuff with him in that role. But getting to see some of the brand split obviously was a major difference at the time. I loved how you had two different rosters with two different looks, two different feels. I was a SmackDown kid growing up, so I always enjoyed seeing, Kurt and Eddie and Cena, JBL and Undertaker, and then eventually Batista came on board, and you had him and King Booker, of course. That classic stuff, man. I go back and I watch that stuff. I still laugh because of how funny those segments were. I think comedy and wrestling is the best. I feel like, that's one thing I feel like I wish we saw more of today is the comedy segments, the comedic segments, because those always put a smile on my face.
So then I would venture to say you're a big R-Truth fan.
Oh yeah. I love me some R-Truth, man. The stuff with him and the 24/7 title, the stuff with him and Gold Dust, the stuff with him and the Miz, just some of the greatest stuff I've seen. Just hilarious.
That is cool. That's cool. So what my guests may not know that you are in the industry. What got you to get into the industry of music and broadcasting and everything?
I think I knew from an early age I always wanted to be in entertainment in some capacity. I did film for a little bit. I dabbled into the radio business when I was about 20. I started doing radio shows at my community college that I was attending at the time. And I just fell in love with it right away, got hooked on it. And so every week I started doing shows. And from that point on, because I had such a breadth of knowledge and I knew about music trivia and music and different artists and things like that, I started really, delving into that side. And I just felt, like I said, fell in love with it. I had a show on a community radio station for a while about piano players. And I sort of kind of grew from that point on, did some work in commercial radio. And from there, I feel like that helped me propel myself to do a podcast. And so, I know you'll probably ask about how I got started with Wrestling with Heart. And I can tell you, at the beginning, because I was focused on the music side of things, I knew at some point I wanted to do a wrestling venture. I just didn't know when and where. So what happened was the year I started the podcast, I just had attended my first WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas, the year that Steve Austin returned to the ring and wrestled Kevin Owens. And I had also attended SummerSlam, which was in my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. And I kind of caught the bug because I enjoyed going to those shows so much. It really kind of I think my love for wrestling has always been a thing, like I've mentioned a bit ago. But I think when COVID hit was when I really seriously started getting into it again, as a fan, really getting into the storylines and everything. I'd always watched it, but this was the first time in a while I was really invested. So I after SummerSlam, I just, I took this podcasting class at the community college that I had done radio stuff at and I had worked for at the time. And I said, maybe this would be kind of a nice idea to do a wrestling podcast. And so if I'm going to do a wrestling podcast, I got to do something that's different and touch on something that not a lot of people have focused on and covered on before. And so I thought to myself, what's the one thing that a lot of podcasters don't really think about when they're doing wrestling? Because there's so many wrestling podcasts out there, talking
Right.
about reviewing the shows and interviewing people. I wanted to do something that kind of brought up a different side, right? Like the human element. And so nobody had really, to my knowledge, when I researched, nobody had really done anything about like charity work or volunteering and doing good for other people. And so I just decided that's probably going to be my focus with this. And yes, we talk about their careers in the ring and the career highlights that they've had, but I think bringing out this other side to them is going to get people inspired to do others and pay it forward. So that's what I wanted to focus on with Wrestling with Heart.
What I found so interesting about your podcast, like you said, it's the human side. No matter what you may think of a person being face or heel, because that's just their character work. But you never really get to learn the real person and how much they really care, because I found watching your show and listening to it that there are so many people that do so much good charity work that would rather not be known for it than to say, hey, I'm doing this. And I really enjoyed that. And it put a different spin on the wrestling aspect for me.
Yeah.
So with that, have you found that it was a little hard to get people to open up?
The thing is I try to make the guests feel as comfortable as possible. I don't want this to be a thing where it's like patting them on the back. It's just to more celebrate and acknowledge the contributions that these men and women do to entertain fans and also show, you know, stories that might get fans and non-fans to do good for others as well. So it's more about inspiration and motivational. And another thing that we kind of focus on with Wrestling with Heart, in addition to that, is sharing stories that might, inspire people to, overcome obstacles and have, if I've had people that have done motivational speaking, for example, and they've talked about, their stories or background, coming from a rough time, going through a rough time in their life and how they've been able to overcome it. And then the other people, the people that are listening and watching the show can do the same thing if something's going on in their life or if they know somebody that's going through a rough time in their life. And so that's another thing we do. And it's something that I feel like we can shine a light on and hopefully get people to do good out there, to do good in the world.
And that is so, again, inspirational. I I would like to talk about a lot of things I've done in wrestling, which I'm like yourself, I'm blessed to even have a foot in the door because of podcasting. And in the short time did I've been doing this, I've I've had a lot of big wins personally for myself, but I think the biggest win I've had so far is last Saturday. I was at a wrestling event in geez, I can't even think of the name of the town. Oliver Springs, Tennessee, and it was an EPW event. And I had did an interview with one of their tag champions, and we were just talking, and I was like telling them about the interaction I had with a fan, and he asked me when I was going to put out merch, and I was like, "Well, I'm working on it," and blah blah blah. And I was like, I thought to myself, "Hey, I do have some pre-merch stuff that I've been working on. Why? I think I'll just give it away. I give away a jersey." And I was telling the story to the wrestler, and he was like, "Well, if you give away a jersey, I'll give away a shirt." Okay, cool. So then um their podcast, I mean, excuse me, their commentating team has a podcast. And they had that same wrestler on. I just so happened to check the show out. And I brought up the fact that I was going to give away a jersey. And the wrestler was like, "Well, yeah, he's giving a jersey, but I'm giving a shirt." They were like, "Well, if y'all giving away a shirt, we'll give away a shirt." Didn't think anything of it. Then I got to thinking, when I was a kid and when I my parents used to take me, we wasn't the richest people in the world. And of course, you can't get everything you ask for as a kid. And I thought to myself, man, I hate that as a kid, I couldn't get something that I could have held on to and mean a lot to me. So I thought, you know what? I have a bunch of backpacks. I'm going to give them away free. I'm going to make sure every kid in that place leaves with something. So lo and behold, I go that day and I walk in, seeing the announcers, and they're like, "Man, you really started something." I'm like, "What?" I just walked in the building. I couldn't have. They're like, "Everybody heard what you're doing, so everybody's giving something free." So they gave the stuff out. I didn't want recognition. The announcer made me stand up, but it was the best feeling I've had ever to make sure that every kid in that place left with a souvenir and hopefully a memory that will last them a lifetime.
And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You know, you're inspiring somebody and you're paying it forward to someone that might need it the most, because you just never know what's going on in their lives. And so being able to do that for a young kid, I mean, I'm sure they were just overjoyed with receiving those backpacks.
And I want to and I credit a lot of that to you and your work you do. Again, because I've seen it, and again, I wouldn't have necessarily even thought about it, but watching your podcast, seeing the work you do, put the thought in my mind. And of course, any wrestler, any older wrestler will always tell you, if you get in the business, leave the business better than you found it.
Mm.
And it was such, like I said, it was so, I had to stop myself from crying because, you know, guys can't cry. But it was such a joyful feeling just to, and you never know what people had to do to get their family to their event.
Yeah.
So,
It's I mean, especially this time of year, the holidays. I mean, this is the season of giving and joy, and so putting a smile on someone's face that needs it the most just goes a long way. You know, some people, you know, it's like it's hard, you know, because there's people out there that need Christmas presents, and there's people that can't afford them and can't afford to go out and get these things. So being able to do this and being able to have, you know, something that they can get for the holiday season, you know, it means the world to be able to provide that for them.
so with me telling my story and not trying to make it about me, but I wanted to know what was the most touching story from a wrestler that you personally have heard.
You know, I had Terry Runnels on a while back, and she's done a lot of philanthropy, a lot of charity work over the years. And so I had her on, and she told me this story of this family that she had worked with. Um, they had a son that was a big wrestling fan. And so I think if I remember correctly, she mentioned like she was saying like the kid was on the verge of passing away. I think he had like cancer, some form of cancer or something. But he had all the wrestling figures, all the toys, and so um they were like close, with this family. She was close with this family, and so I believe like as a favor or something, she tried to get certain talent on the phone to speak to the kid. So I think this was like around one of the WrestleMania press conferences. And so Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon, I think, like talked to the kid, and then eventually the phone got passed down to like The Rock or Stone Cold and Undertaker and different stars, basically like the top guys had the chance to speak to this kid, and within maybe a few hours later, he died. He passed away. But just that moment, right? To be able to have that experience, to be able to talk to your favorite heroes and stars and legends. And Terry was a part of that, you know. So that was very, very heartwarming, to hear that. It was a tearjerker.
Yeah, that uh, I couldn't imagine. I'm blessed to have two kids, and I couldn't imagine knowing that they couldn't have the chance to live a full life. That would just tear me to pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's devastating to hear that, somebody's going through a disease or somebody's going through something, and they don't know if they're going to be able to survive. But, I mean, hats off to people like John Cena that are doing the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they're granting wishes to kids that are going through terminal illnesses, but yet they get to meet their childhood hero. I mean, and you could say this about a lot of different people, a lot of different celebrities getting to meet, these kids, and it's like they don't know if they're going to be able to pass this day or not, survive and get through it. But just that moment means so much.
Yes, definitely. What with you doing all the charity work and trying to make such a difference, what is the thing that continues to motivate you to reach out and to keep the work going? Because I mean, for myself, I know there are days it's just like I'm not feeling this. I don't really want to do this. What can what keeps you going and such a positive influence on so many people?
Well, I think because I've had like a strong work ethic, I was raised to not quit, try to stick it out, as much as possible, and this being kind of the first podcast of its kind and being told by so many people, hey, I love what you're doing, keep it up and keep up the good work. That kind of encouragement really resonates, with me, and instills in me the confidence to keep going. Because, some podcasters, they start with 7 episodes a lot of times, and then they just stop, you know, and I try to, like I said earlier, there've been like so many different wrestling podcasts. The market's like it's kind of like oversaturated, right? Because there's so many different ones out there. But, you know, there's always going to be, you're always going to have ones that stand out, you know, and I want to be one that sticks out, stands out, and do it in a way where people can be engaged, people can check out, you know, the what we're doing is something that can make someone's day and influence them, steer them in the right direction. And I hope I can, with the show, make a difference in someone's life, because I'm telling these stories, helping to tell these stories of these men and women that are not just great, incredible athletes, but they're human beings, very, you know, human beings as well, that do good out there, that are showing like, if I can do this, you can do this. And I feel like there's no better feeling in the world to be able to pay it forward to someone else, through just such a unique medium. You know, podcasting and radio, I feel like are mediums out there that are creative, and you can tell stories, and that's what we're about. We're about telling stories.
Definitely. Would you would you be comfortable being known as the icon of caring?
You know, the icon of caring, you said?
Yes.
Hey, I'm up for that. You know, I just want to keep doing my thing. You know, I don't really like have like, hey, I'd like to be an icon of this. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, just keep chugging along. I mean, that's all what we can do. And you know, I just want to put out a good product at the end of the day. I don't really, you know, care about, titles, but if it ever came up, hey, cool.
Well, I think you've more than earned that right. I think that you do such good work that people should understand that you are the you are the creator of caring. You well, let me say it like this. You have gotten people to look at wrestling in a totally different light that it's hard to already make someone fall in love with something they already love to begin with. And you have did that on so many different levels. And as as much as you go out there and let people know what everybody else does, you should be praised for what you do. And
Thank you.
I I I would feel phony. I would feel discouraged not to give you your flower. One thing I'm big on is giving people flowers while they're around and they can smell them, because too many times people pass away and we are all into, oh God, if I had another moment, I would tell them how I felt. And I feel that there are too many good people out there that don't get flowers when they're here. And I try so hard to give people their flowers and make it known with my podcast, to give people a chance to do. There are so many different aspects to wrestling, and you found something so unique and heartwarming that you definitely deserve all the praise and love that I know, not just myself, not just the WSN, but so many different podcasters respect and love you for. So
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It means a lot, to be able to create something that I feel like can be around for a while, and get people to, get out there and do some good in the world, because I feel like we all could spread the wealth a little bit, and I feel like every little bit helps.
Yes, it does. So, if you were going to recommend any charities, which ones would you recommend?
Um, I would say Meals on Wheels would be one. I've helped out with giving food to the homeless every year for the holidays. And people that aren't able to go out for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, and to you know, deliver meals. I've done that with my family. Um, I gave some toys last year to kids that couldn't afford toys for the holidays for Christmas through the local rescue mission. And I would say St. Jude's would be one, because I feel like that being there for kids that are going through so much in their life, to be able to see them and to uh, just be there for them in their time of need. I think they will. I think they would appreciate that. Having people that are there for them when they need it most. So I definitely would say St. Jude as well.
That's good. Um, have you and have you ever, well, not ever, have you gotten the chance to meet your biggest wrestling idol and have a heart to heart conversation with them?
I mean, I've met so many wrestlers over the last several years. Some of them I've had on the show. Some of them I want to have on the show. It's just the logistics, are the big thing. But I've told them about the podcast. I have. It's just a matter of uh, when they can do it, um, and hoping that they would make time in their schedule to come on. But I've met several wrestlers, um, and probably my biggest dream yet for me. I have several, but and I've told him this. Mick Foley. I think he would be a perfect guest for the show because of the work that he has done in the community and the good that he has done outside of wrestling. Um, I think he'd be great for it.
That I could, I honestly couldn't think of anyone else better than Mick. I think you're just 100% right on that.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd love to have Mick on. Kurt Angle's another one that I'd love to interview. Like I said, fan since childhood. Um, I think that he's got an inspiring story, of overcoming his demons. But I know he's done stuff to help, speak to kids. And I'll tell you a guy who I really enjoyed speaking with, and I've interviewed him twice on the show, Mark Marrow. If you read his book, he came out with a book recently. Talks about he you know came from a rough childhood, got into drugs and alcohol, but he was able to turn his life around. Now he's speaking to school kids and just speaking at schools all across the world. Really inspired so many of them to do well. And we have talked about how he was able to give back and create his charity to be able to pay it forward to others. So I've enjoyed having him on. Um, I'd love to have DDP on. That's someone I'm hoping sometime next year we can schedule a time and get him on the show because he's like one of the kings of positivity. He really is.
Yes, and so many people that he's helped and just giving his time and energy. And I mean, talking about living a gimmick, I mean, he is just such a positive individual. It is so amazing.
It's fascinating to see the work that he has been able to do with Scott Hall, with Jake Roberts, with Buff Bagwell. So many people he has been able to help get their lives straightened out and turned around. I think his story is definitely one that I think would love to have, share that with other people.
Definitely. Have you thought about setting up a charity yourself for people to be able to donate? Because I feel like a lot of people, it's a lot of times where I can only speak for myself, but sometimes I don't feel like I know where I should donate or what I should do or what I could do.
That's definitely something I might want to consider down the line. I'm just trying to right now get my podcast out there. I've got several different things in the works for 2026. I'm in the process of writing a book, compiling some of the interviews that I've had on the show in the last 3.5 years. So I'm working on getting that out next year, some point in the spring or summer. I'm trying to get the show on the radio. I'm on about 3 or 4 different radio stations right now across the country. I'm hoping to get on several others. T-shirts might be something that might be coming next year. I know that's been something I've been toying with for a while, but hopefully next year will be the year we get that out and get that done. So there's a lot of different things I'm looking at doing, but yes, down the road, would love to do that. Yes.
That is it's such a great thing. And again, I I just really want to commend you for all the hard work that you do, for everything that you do, not just for people in need, not just for um, the wrestlers, not just for the community. It's for people that you encourage, that you given a light to be better, and there are just never enough ways of thanking you for being a pioneer in a way that a lot of people would have never thought of. Or we're a lot of times we take wrestling for granted. We take it as our escape and think of our problems. But you look so far ahead, not to look at your needs, but everyone else's. And again, I'm very appreciative of it. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on my podcast. Thank you for
Absolutely.
the continued work that you do. Um, we are definitely going to have you back next month for the Podcast Appreciation Month. You're definitely one of the bigger people and podcasts that when this ideal came to me, I wanted to have you on again to give you, and again, I know you don't do this for praise or anything else, just to be who you are as a good person, but you deserve that. You
Thank you.
deserve praise, you deserve recognition. And
Thank you.
for the people that my fans that may not have known of you or your cause, I hope that they start following you and tell their friends. I would rather you be the biggest podcaster in the world versus me getting half that audience, because you do so much for so many people. And again, it's just the best way I can say thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And anytime you need anything from me, anything from WSN, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I would do anything I possibly can to help promote to whatever you need. I am there for you, my friend.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to come on your show. I'm looking forward to returning next month.
No problem. Again, thank you. Guys, girls, again, I always try to leave off with support indie wrestling. And I still want you to, but take the time, especially and it's kind of appropriate being the holiday season, to look beyond yourself and help where you can. Not everybody can help with financial, but you can help with time. You can help with encouragement. You can help with just being the ear to listen to people. Do what you can, and just don't do it because it's the holidays. Do it when it's January, February. There is no set time to be a great person and give, and be the person that deep inside you are. And I'm gonna put my efforts into being a better person and do a lot more for my community and for the wrestling community in general. So with all that being said, guys, girls, thank you. And we will be around the campfire for another great, great episode of A Bear's Thought. I've been Professor Bear. Y'all have a great, great day.